Okay, well, thank you for everybody for joining us today. Welcome to the Transportation Safety webinar series, Moving Research into Practice. Let me just make sure I'm not echoing. Okay. This webinar series is jointly hosted by ourselves here at the Midwest Transportation Center at Iowa State University and the Roadway Safety Institute at the University of Minnesota. These webinars will share the impacts of research that we've done conducted through both of the regional transportation centers. You'll hear from both the researcher side of things, leading the work, and the practitioner implementing the work around the state. So a recording of this, for those who can't attend, will be available on both of our websites after the webinar. In efforts for us to successfully monitor our research and discover how research is being implemented around the state, this is why this webinar came about. And so we're trying to capture your input. So you'll see on your screen, you'll see the main part of the screen, the presentation, and on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a chat area. And throughout the presentation, there's a few slides that have polling questions. So we'd really appreciate your input and participating in that. And this is the kind of information that we're trying to capture on implementing our research around the state. So without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker to you today. Is Dr. Shauna Hallmark. She is a professor in the Department of Civil and Construction and Environmental Engineering. She's also the director for the Institute of Transportation at Iowa State University. She served as a principal investigator on more than 50 gate research projects all over the state, over 16 years using a wide range of sponsors. So Shauna.
Good morning. Hold on just a sec, we're having some echo back here. Okay, I think we're okay now. All right, good morning. So as Teresa mentioned, we are trying to find ways to make sure that research that we conduct gets out into the hands of people who actually need it instead of sitting on a shelf somewhere. So we came up with this seminar series so that we could try to get the researcher's perspective on the research and then also have the practitioner maybe talk about how they did implement it, or else maybe how it could have been better done so that they could implement it better. Today we're going to talk about the safety benefits of the safety edge. And just a little bit of background on what the safety edge is. Along roadways, when you have the shoulder migrates away or you just got done paving, you will have some elevation difference between the paved roadway surface and the unpaved shoulder. And so in some cases, when you have different factors happening, that can be quite significant. The problem is that as a vehicle is driving along the roadway and it encounters drop-off, it can first affect driver stability and handling, so they suddenly transfer from one surface to another surface. Drivers tend to overcompensate when this happens. And then there's a situation called scrubbing, which may also occur, which means as the driver tries to return to the roadway, the sidewall of their tire actually brushes against the pavement edge drop-off. And as the driver steers and tries to come back on, once they return to the roadway, that excess force that's being applied to overcome the difference between the shoulder and the surface is then translated into the steering column, and then the driver tends to overcompensate, and there can be the driver will go into the other lane or have some type of action that will cause them to crash. So there's multiple ways that drop-off can be a problem to drivers. There's a lot of different causes for pavement edge drop-off. So wear, obviously, just normal wear and tear, and then in Iowa and other states, you have a lot of farm vehicles which sometimes don't always occupy the lane and end up partially on the shoulder. There's times where the roadway may be resurfaced and then timely maintenance is not undertaken. During the construction, obviously, you've not yet pulled your shoulders up or not yet transferred back to the original lane, and so there can be that situation. And then also erosion, when you have a pattern of rain or water running down the side of the roadway, it can actually wear away that material from the edge. So as those of you who are working with an agency where you do maintenance, you know that that requires constant maintenance of the shoulder edge to keep the either rock, typically the rock shoulder, pulled back up. And in cases where you have an earth shoulder, that becomes sometimes even more difficult. So pavement edge drop-off, why it's a problem? There's about 160 fatalities and 11,000 injuries annually. Of course, it is difficult to determine when pavement edge drop-off was the cause because police officers don't usually record that in the field, so we're just inferring that that's a number based on statistics others have provided. We did do a study in Iowa, and we found that drop-off crashes were 2 times more likely to result in a fatal crash than other crashes on similar roadway types. So that means that that phenomenon of the driver leaving the roadway and then losing control ends up in a more severe crash. We also estimated that it makes up about a half of all fatalities on rural roadways and 2/3 of roadway departure fatalities. It can create a significant liability for agencies because, as many of you know, there's a lot of times lawsuits that are engaged when they believe pavement edge drop-off is suspected or some type of maintenance issue. So in order to address that, Federal Highway some time ago came out with the safety edge, and it was based on research that showed that vehicles who leave the roadway surface and then have a sloped roadway surface are more likely to be able to safely return. So 30 degrees was the approximate value that was selected, and it's basically a fill-up that's created alongside the paved section of a roadway during construction. And so it can be done during both asphalt and concrete paving, although it's much easier to do for asphalt, and that's the more typical situation. As I mentioned, it provides a sloped surface for the driver to return instead of having that really abrupt surface. So the safety edge was developed, as I mentioned, Federal Highway came out with it some time ago. For HMA pavement, it's a device or shoe that actually shapes or consolidates the pavement material into an approximate 30-degree slope, and you can see some images here of how that's done. It requires that device, and there's different devices from different manufacturers, but that's approximately what it looks like. Later in the presentation, I'll show you a few PCC applications, which is done slightly differently. In either case, it does provide a sloped surface. So we do have a question here, and I believe Hannah's going to put the questions up to the side. We'll give you just a minute, so please click on the chat box on the side, not on the slide, because the slide's not going to do anything for you. So the question is, to what extent is the safety edge used in your organization? And typically, since it's used on asphalt, we're only talking about asphalt right now. So it doesn't use it all. You've tested it maybe once or twice in your organization, but it isn't widely used. It's used occasionally for different reasons. It's widely used on primary roads or widely used on primary and secondary roads. And in some cases, you may not be sure. So each time we have a question pop up, we'll have about 2 minutes for everyone to respond. And then along the side, we'll have just a little tally of what everybody answered. Of course, only one person in your group can answer, so you can just take a consensus of how you're going to answer those within your organization. And so we'll just give everybody a little bit. I think we have about 50 seconds left. Set a time. Questions to go. Okay, it looks like it's just about done. Okay, so the polling's closed, so if you didn't answer, then there's not an opportunity to do that. I'm going to move to the next slide and let Hannah go ahead and pop up those answers when she's able. So the safety edge, there's some construction benefits that are associated with it. There's less likely to form extreme drop-off during the construction process. Some states do not require you to pull the shoulders back up immediately after construction. Iowa is one of those states. It can reduce tort liability by showing that an agency is engaged in due care in addressing drop-off. I will stop just for a minute. The polling is up to the side, and so it looks like most people aren't sure about to what extent it's used, and it looks like a majority are widely using it. So the next question, are there any incentives offered to contractors within your agency? So we'll have this up for 2 minutes, and I think that I'll give you just a minute, and then we'll move on and then come back to the question rather than waiting. But what we're asking is incentives. So I just mentioned that in the state of Iowa, for instance, contractors do not have to pull up the shoulders. And so maybe you don't know of any. These are just for contractors, obviously. Or the contractors don't have to pull up their shoulders. Maybe there's other incentive offered that we hadn't thought of. If you could note those in the chat box if that's the case, or you don't have enough experience in, that you know of. So I'll give just maybe 10 seconds more, then I'll go to the next slide, but you can keep answering for about another minute and a half. Okay, you can still see the questions along the side, so even though I moved away from that slide, you're still able to see them. The main reason for using the safety edge are the safety benefits. So the CTRE, which is the organization in Iowa State University, conducted a study in Iowa where we looked at locations where the safety edge had been applied during construction seasons 2010 and 2011, included control sections in that, so we did a before and after analysis, and developed crash modification factors. So we found that there was a 13% reduction in all crashes, and this did not include intersection crashes since they tend not to be pavement edge drop-off related. And we found an 11% reduction in runoff road crashes. Now, we expected that there would be a little bit higher reduction in runoff road crashes, but the problem was that a large number of crashes had not actually coded the sequence of events, so that answer may have been a little bit higher. But basically, you've got an 11 to 13% reduction in crashes, which is actually pretty good, I think. A study done by Midwest Research Institute found a approximately 6% crash reduction, so there is a definite safety benefit there. Other benefits of the safety edge is that because of the compaction that happens during the process, it can increase the compaction of the edge. It also provides a temporary edge during construction, so if a construction vehicle or someone was to leave the roadway, they would be able to return safely. All right, I'll stop for just a moment and go back to the question. It looks like most people are either there are no incentives or they're not sure. It does look like a few of you are saying 3 out of 42 that the contractors do not have to pull up the shoulders. So if you did know of any other benefits that we had not listed here, if you wouldn't mind putting those in the chat box so we could record those. Other benefits of the safety edge is that it really takes minimal hardware, labor, or material costs to lay down the safety edge, at least in asphalt. We did an estimate as part of an outreach project where we estimated about 1 to 2% additional material, and our contractor guest here will explain a little bit more whether they're actually finding that in the field. So there's a lot of benefits, obviously, to the safety edge. They've not been very well communicated. As more research has come out, obviously, there's been more knowledge about this. But in Iowa, back in 2008, we had our first safety edge project in Clinton County. The Iowa DOT was interested in encouraging use of the safety edge, as was Federal Highway. The Iowa DOT design manual actually changed and now requires that all primary highways have the safety edge unless one of the following characteristics is met, and I won't read all those, but there's some situations where the safety edge is not required. Federal Highway, as I mentioned, has an emphasis on the safety edge. It's been one of their everyday counts. However, despite this, it was slow to be adopted in Iowa, so there was some question is why are people not adopting it? Why are agencies not interested in applying it? Obviously, contractors have to see a benefit before they're going to apply it. So the Iowa DOT funded the Center for Transportation Research and Education to go out and actually market and do some outreach for the Safety Edge to show local agencies the value of doing this, using the Safety Edge in projects. And this was in asphalt projects. So I'll talk about a little bit more about that in a minute, but in the meantime, we'll have a question about, are there barriers within your organization that have led to you not implementing the Safety Edge, or potentially you had barriers and you've been able to overcome them? So if you've had barriers or you have implemented the Safety Edge, I guess if you haven't considered implementing it, it wouldn't matter. But does it add additional costs? Is there a concern that 30-degree slope can't be uniformly applied? There's not a sense that there's an understanding of the value, or maybe your organization bought in a long time ago and there's been no barriers. So I'll pause for just about 15 seconds and I'll let you start to answer. Then I'll move to the next slide and we'll come back to the answers for this one. Okay, we'll let you keep answering for another minute. As I mentioned, we started doing some marketing and outreach to the Safety Edge in Iowa. What that basically entailed is that we attended pre-construction meetings. This was during the 2010 construction season. So any project that was going to be using HMA that the state was aware of, we contacted the agency, found out if they were interested, attended the pre-con to answer questions about the equipment and then the procedure. We actually purchased 2 Safety Edge shoes that we used as loaners that we would take out to them, they could try out, and then go get them and then take them to the next contractor if they wished. We had several open houses where we provided information and we demonstrated. We did some site visits, went out, and as they were actually laying it down, provided technical assistance if they needed, did some measuring of the slope to see if we were pretty much achieving around 30-degree slope. And then based on that, we kind of came back with some recommendations on application of the Safety Edge. At the same time in Iowa, we did try the first PCC application of the Safety Edge. That was in Jones-Lynn County on E34. And it was, as far as we know, no one's corrected us yet on this, but the first application in the United States on PCC. The paved width was 26 feet, and then there's a little description about what the paving project was, and it was 2.5 miles long. This is just showing you the equipment that was used to lay that down. And so the 2 construction companies that worked on the project actually had to develop a pan that laid that down, so it was a little bit more complicated for the PCC application. So I think that's probably the reason mostly that's been slower to be adopted in that medium. All right, we'll jump quickly back to the question. So what are the additional barriers? There is a few are answering that there's the additional cost. There's some answering that they're concerns about the 30% slope, as well as not seeing the value. And then a lot are just actually saying that their organization has already bought in. So this question relates specifically to PCC projects, not HMA. So has it been used in your organization? So not used at all. It's been tested but not widely used on primary and secondary, or not sure. We're learning as we go. So we've moved the question down to 1 minute time length. It seemed like we were getting a little off track waiting for we didn't want to wait for 2 minutes, but we were getting a little off track waiting for the question. So each one's going to close in a minute, so you have just a couple more seconds on this one. And then I will just go ahead and wait for the answer. All right, so the majority are answering that it's not used or they're not sure, which is exactly what I expected. It's not been widely used in PCC to date. But it looks like a couple of you are using it. And if you have any interest in providing us feedback to either group about your experience with either the HMA or PCC application, we would be interested in hearing what you had to say. All right, so as I mentioned, the Iowa DOT was interested in getting it widely implemented in Iowa. We did a bunch of open houses. We had the safety edge, different ways of getting it out into the field and actually getting it used. The good thing is we were able to easily describe the benefits, and it didn't take very long before most agencies bought into using the safety edge in the 2010 construction season. Also, we found that we didn't even end up loaning the shoes out after very long because contractors decided it was just as easy to buy them. They weren't that expensive. So we found that, at least with this project, getting the research out there, the benefits communicated was really critical, and getting that information to actually getting to both agencies and contractors, I think, was what helped us be successful. And that's not something that you typically do in research. A lot of times we write a tech brief or we write a report, and then we don't always go as far as we need to with implementation and getting it into the hands of people who need it. So I think that's one thing that we did successfully. So what primary sources have you used to determine whether you wanted to use the safety edge in your organization? So you were already familiar with it because there's been a lot of information put out from agencies such as Federal Highway, or you were convinced by recent information such as everyday counts, or you were aware of research reports, tech briefs from groups other than Federal Highway. Networking, you've talked to other states, peer exchanges, other agencies, or you're not sure how, or maybe you're either not sure or you weren't familiar at all with the safety edge. So we have about 30 more seconds on this question, if you'd like to answer. All right, the poll's now closed, and she's going to tabulate those up pretty quickly for us. And the reason I'm asking the question is it's good to know when we put information out, is it coming out of universities, is it coming out of Federal Highway, what medium are you all using to get the information that you need? So it looks like Federal Highway was the everyday counts was very successful in getting the information out there. People were already aware, and then a few were getting information from reports and tech briefs. And then another question, prior to today, did we give you any information today that was useful, would be the question here. You weren't really aware, you were aware of the safety benefits but not the maintenance construction benefits, or you were aware of both prior to this. So we'll give you about 40 more seconds to answer. And I just like this. It's cool, huh? Henry. This is really good. We do. All right, the poll is closed, and we'll give those just a second for the results to be updated. If you have additional questions at any time, you can start typing those into the chat as well. We'll hit questions at the end of my presentation. And then when we get to the end of what Bill's presentation, we'll also allow you another opportunity. Okay, so it looks like a lot of you were actually quite aware of both the safety benefits and the safety and construction benefits. So that's great. It looks like the information is getting out there so that people can start utilizing that. All right, so we're to the end of my part of the presentation, so we will go ahead and open up to questions. So you can type the question in. and then Teresa will read those off, and I will go ahead and answer. As I just mentioned, you will also have the opportunity to interact with Bill when he gets to his portion.
Hey, Shauna, we had one question from a participant. Most HMA highways in North Dakota, county and state, have safety edges designed on them, and the additional material is in the material bid cost. It is calculated to have the additional 2 to 5% material on the edge and is reflected in the bid price. So I guess it's more of a statement than it is a question, but it's interesting to know.
Yeah, that is interesting to know how you're doing. So if anyone else wants to comment, you may comment as well as question. Yeah.
I haven't got anything else. Okay, so let me take this opportunity to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Mr. Bill Rosner. He has served as Executive Vice President of the Asphalt Paving Association in Iowa for the past 8 years. During his 31-year asphalt career, he's worked as a flagman, a raker, roller operator, paver operator, before eventually becoming an estimator and project manager for the LL Pelling Company.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bill Rosner, and I'm the Executive Vice President for the Asphalt Paving Association of Iowa. I'm very proud to be here today. You have just heard from the brains, and now you get to hear from the brawn. As Shauna mentioned, I've prior to taking this job, I was a contractor. So this opportunity to get in and talk a little bit will be probably more from that perspective as opposed from as Director of the Asphalt Paving Association. Couple things that I should let you know. Contractors are inherently against anything that costs them money. So in this circumstance, there was an initial desire to drive this initiative, and it's very hard to argue against safety, as we all know. But what we saw was that it was probably going to cost money, and at that time when this was first being introduced, the price of asphalt cement had already gone up an awful lot. Iowa is a very competitive market with our competition in the PCC industry, so there wasn't a really strong desire to add some new cost to our product. That being said, we are always very interested in things that might be mutually beneficial, and to be honest with you, that is kind of what drove this initiative when it was all said and done. I know there were some concerns both from the engineers and from our contractors on whether a 30-degree slope would hold the rock against the shoulder better than a straight 90-degree edge. And I'll get back to that a little bit in the future. I know the FHWA, when this first came out, was interested under their Everyday Counts initiative to drive this, but the reality was it really took money to incentivize the product, and I think that's what's been a mutually beneficial win-win situation for both parties. So when this first came out, as Shauna mentioned, the folks at Intrans were going around and FHWA were going around with 2 different devices, and it was quickly understood that it's a very simple process to add this to the cutoff shoe of the paver. I'm not sure if we have those slides from, oh, it's on me. All right. Well, see, now we're getting into the brains versus brawn part again. What we saw was that it really didn't take very much to get these connected up to our devices, and I actually have a couple slides.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
That's like, maybe he's the brain.
There we go. Okay. All right, so there we go. All right. So that's who I am, once more time. That's who the Asphalt Paving Association is. We are celebrating our 61st anniversary this year, so we've been around for a little bit. And this is just a picture of what the paver looks like with the machine going down the road. And you can see the safety slope, or the safety edge on that. So the first year they're going around with these two devices, and there was no incentive on this to speak of yet. And it did require, there is a small amount of effort required on the paver's part to go around and cut the shoulder out an additional foot, generally with the motor patrol. It's pretty minimal effort. But really drove this process was when the FHWA and the DOT agreed that the contractor no longer had to place a safety edge at the end of the day's paving, or safety rock wedge. Prior to that, before the contractor left the road that day, they would have to go out with generally one truck, generally a small flow boy, and a guy on a roller and a guy on a broom, and they would track down the road 5 or 6 miles to try and keep up with what the paver is doing. So you can see that actually required a fair amount of effort. You have a truck that's no longer hauling asphalt. You have 2 guys and 2 pieces of equipment that are out there at the end of the day. When the DOT agreed that they would suspend the need for putting the safety rock down, it immediately drove this into a win-win situation for both the contractor and for the agency. So it was immediately adopted by all of our members very shortly after that. I think Shauna still wonders what happened to her 2 devices, because as soon as the contractors adopted this, they either bought their own devices, and there's 4 approved sources from the DOT. A lot of them created their own and self-fabricated them. They're not complicated. There were a few consternations when this was immediately going on. The slope, the suggested slope is 30 degrees. And what we found is that if you had a thicker mat like we might see here, if the roller operator gets too close, it can actually steepen up that edge to maybe closer to a 45. So we did have a couple of county engineers, as I recall, that were being sticklers about wanting the actual 30-degree edge. After a couple meetings, especially with FHWA and Intrans, it was kind of determined that somewhere between 30 and 45 degrees was acceptable. And if you think about driving your car off this edge, you know, it makes sense that as long as you have some sort of beveled surface to get back up on the mat, that it really doesn't matter if it's exactly 30 degrees. So I talked to a few of my contractors about this prior to coming in here today. This has become standard practice in Iowa. There's no issue anymore. I asked them if counties specifically asked for it, and they just said it's on all our pavers now. So we don't ask them. They assume that we're going to do it, and so that's not an issue. The contractors do get a small amount of additional asphalt, which is also obviously beneficial to them. Kind of wrapping this up, because I told Shauna and Teresa that, you know, the actual nuts and bolts behind this is that it's a win-win situation for both the contractors and for the agencies. I'm extremely excited to hear when Shauna told me that the results came back that we had a 13% reduction in the amount of accidents. We all know that these, if someone who's an inexperienced driver and they drop off that edge and then come back up, it can be a very dangerous situation. I talked to a lot of my contractors and some of our local agencies about whether or not the rock stayed up against the safety edge as well as a 90-degree edge, and to a man and woman, they all said that the rock stayed as well, if not better, against the safety edge. So that argument has been proven to be moot as well. And I was telling Teresa and Shauna about a personal anecdote of mine. When they were first developing this, I was actually on my way to a safety edge open house, and my company car used to be a Dodge Charger with a Hemi in it, and I like to drive very fast. And so I was traveling down a county road that had recently been constructed, and went off the edge because I was being unsafe doing other things, and was able, thanks to the safety edge, to just quickly pull back up and not kill myself. So anecdotally, I will tell you that it does work. And with that, I'm actually through with my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions you might have as well.
Okay, Shauna, we have one question from a viewer. They ask, how was the safety data compiled?
So that's kind of a broad question.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually just finished a document for the Iowa DOT which describes how we got the data, the sample size, and the analysis method. If you're interested in that, I would be happy to send that to you. If you would just type your email in the chat box, I will get that out. Pretty quickly, it will be on the Intrans website, so they'll be able to access it, but it's something we just recently finished. And unless you'd like to talk about Bayesian statistics for 10 minutes.
I guess we had a viewer made another statement on there. There are shoes now that can be adjusted if the roller pushes up the angle. Another option is to have the roller operator stay about a foot off the edge of the first pass and then over the edge on the second pass. Do you have any comments for that?
I'll let Bill take that first.
That's absolutely correct. There are adjustable safety edges and wedges now, and that has been the best method for making sure that you ensure that you don't lose that 30 to 45 degree wedge. So, good point.
So, as we were doing the outreach study, we were finding that there was, as Bill was saying, when they were rolling that outer edge, we were losing the 30 degree. So, actually, Tom McDonald and Bob Sperry, the two gentlemen who were going out and helping, started recommending staying off that edge by about a foot. And then we did have some contractor one actually develop their own, they did a modification to the device themselves. So we did experience that in Iowa. There was some concern that if you didn't roll that outer edge that you weren't going to get the right consolidation. So we actually did a brief test and found out we were getting the same level of compaction. So that concern was alleviated. So that's actually a good point. I hadn't brought that up in the slides, but we did have the exact same situation in Iowa.
Okay, do we have any other questions from anyone? Yeah, I just have another one coming in. Do either of the presenters have anything to say about pavement durability? Does the safety edge help with pavement durability?
No, Teresa, I'm not sure that the safety edge would provide any sort of pavement durability. I certainly wouldn't decrease your durability. I think it probably prolongs the life of the edge of your pavement if you have better adhesion with your rock. I mean, this has all been about safety. So I guess as far as I'm concerned, I don't know that it's improved any durability.
Do you have any comments, Shauna, for that?
No, I mean, we have not been able, obviously, to study that, but I think as Bill mentioned, it's not going to decrease it.
Yeah.
Some people have suggested that because you're providing that additional consolidation of the edge, that there's additional durability at the edge, but we don't have any study to back that up.
Okay, I have one more question here. Do you have complaints from contractors with tying in at driveways, cross streets, or high shoulder areas?
No, we don't have a problem with that in Iowa. As a matter of fact, we're required to create fillets. We call them short little, generally 4 to 6 feet out from the existing edge of the pavement to create that transition into driveways and into intersections. My counterparts in the concrete industry have not been in love with the safety edge because they do have to pull off their pan and then create a straight edge for those sections and then come back and dial into that while they pull their intersections. So if you were talking to the PC contractors, they would not be as much in love with the safety edge as we are at the asphalt industry.
Do you have any comments on that?
Nope, I think he hit it.
Okay. I did have a request on here to share the specific Iowa study showing the safety benefits in Iowa, and I'll send a link through.
Perfect.
Yeah, it'll be available on our website, and I'll make sure that Ken, the request from you, I'll make sure that you get that, and everybody that participates today gets that information that we need. Okay, do we have any more questions from anyone?
Or comments.
Or comments on anyone. Oh, okay. How many miles of safety edge has been installed in Iowa thus far?
Thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how much. It's like I said, for the last 5 years, it's been standard practice. So it's really no brainer anymore.
So we tracked it over the 2011-2012 construction season. So we pretty much knew where all of the locations were, the extent. And then after that, and so that's how we did the safety study. So we took segments from that same time period that had been either existing or paved without, and then those that were paved with. But since then, any new project has had the safety edge. So yeah, we've actually not been keeping track because it's just being done everywhere.
Could you speak if there are to any limits on thickness and different things like that? Are there any limits to using the safety edge?
I would suggest that you have to be more cognizant of your initial base when you're doing a thicker asphalt. You can see that a little bit on the PC and even on the slide that I had. Let's see if I can come back to that one. So this is a full depth asphalt project, and this is going to be a total of 8 inches, if I'm not mistaken. They're probably putting down 3.5 to 4 inches right now, and you can see that you do have to start out a little wider to make sure that you have that 3-to-1 slope. And if you're thinking 8 inches out, you almost need to be, 2 foot wide at the bottom to get that up there. So you are going to have some additional material going on with that. The majority of our work in Iowa, and probably I would assume most places, we are not building a lot of new roads. So most of the work that we're working on is, a 3 to 4 inch overlay, mill and fill. But to your question, yes, you do need to be more cognizant to start with. Make sure that you don't get too steep with successive layers.
Okay, I do have a question here that I'm not actually familiar with the acronym they're using. What does Bill have to say about how much extra AC is used with the safety edge?
Well, it's going to be the same amount of asphalt cement as what you would in a normal process. I think it's just anecdotally again, I think you're probably looking at about 1 to 3% additional tons of asphalt on a project. So if you lay out your mat, do the 3-to-1 slope on there, it's really minimal versus the amount of value that everybody gets out of it. So I'd say 1 to 3%.
All right, we have another question. Is there problems with HMA pavement breaking away after its life if you're not compacting the outside foot of the pavement? And is there a known increase or decrease in maintenance?
That's a good question. I probably need to talk to, we're 5 years into this process. I know there was some concerns initially about making sure that we had good compaction on that beveled edge. And some of the contractors have actually developed like a little small roller that'll kind of like attach onto the back of the screed there and create some additional compaction on that. I know that when we very first started that maybe we weren't getting good pressure down on that plate, and we were getting some kind of loose samples out there on that edge, but over time that's kind of been re-engineered, and we don't have any issues with that now. I do think, there is a potential when you cut, you can kind of see on this, if you look on this mat right here, you can see probably where that 1 foot roller pass would be. If you come in there and vibrate that really hard, there is a potential to create a crease there or a cut almost with your roller. But we kind of watched for that over the first couple of years and really haven't seen an issue with that over time. So long story short, I would say that no, we haven't really seen a decrease or in longevity or an increase in maintenance due to the safety edge.
So he asked a question before about the thickness, and I think they were actually asking, is there a minimum thickness?
It's not as distinct when you're doing an 1.5 inch overlay, but it's certainly possible to do that when you're looking at a 4 inch wide strap.
Okay. I don't think we have any more questions. We'll give you another few seconds to ask any if you'd like to. Again, I'd like to thank you for participating. We really appreciate your time. You can join us again. We've got another webinar coming up on March 22nd, and that's a presentation from John Huerdos at the University of Minnesota and John Gustafson from Washington County in Minnesota, and they're going to be talking about the evaluation of safety and mobility on two-lane roundabouts. If you've got any questions after today, like I said before, the webinar will be available on both of our websites. You can contact me anytime for further questions if you need to do that. There will be a professional development certificate today if you'd like to email me for that. My email is litteral@iowastate.edu, litteral@iowastate.edu. I'd like to thank everybody again for your participation and our speakers today. And if that's all that we have, I'll put my email in the chat here so everybody can see it. And thank you again.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.